Alec Rowley, to be followed by Bob Doris. Mr Rowley, please.
Presiding Officer, in supporting the motion and the Labour amendment, there isn't anything in the motion, the amendment or in the strategy that I think people would object to. And as we have seen from the many briefs from a range of organisations such as Age Scotland, the Co-op Party, the Red Cross, Marie Curie and the Mental Health Foundation, there is real support in the country for such a strategy, and indeed there is a lot of work, very good work going on across Scotland. I also saw yesterday the announcement by the UK Government that they have appointed a Minister for Loneliness. So there is a consensus across political parties and civic society that social isolation and loneliness is a very real issue in communities across our country. On that, we are united. But I was very struck yesterday by the comments of the CEO of Food Train, a third sector charity in North Ayrshire, who told the national newspaper, and I quote, "Without action, this strategy is just words on a page." The funding for this organisation that relies on comes from the Local Health and Social Care Partnership, the Integrated Joint Board. In the real world of Scotland today, many of the IGBs are reporting massive overspends and are facing real-term cuts to their budgets moving forward. They are struggling to fund the very care packages people need to get out of hospital and to have security in their community, never mind supporting the funding of community groups. I was also struck a few weeks ago seeing a worker from a health charity interviewed on the Scottish News. She said that the strategy and policies of the Scottish Government for the issues that that charity dealt with were brilliant. But she then went on to say that on the ground, local authority budgets are being cut and they're not able to implement the strategies. And this is the key question. At which point does the strategy we agree in this Parliament become little more than rhetoric, bits of paper gathering dust on shelves? Because there is no resources out there in communities in order to action the strategy. To make this point further, I would refer to an interview in the Eye and the Scotsman on the 2nd of January this year with the chair of the Poverty and Inequality Commission, Douglas Hamilton. Speaking about the Child Poverty Bill, Mr Hamilton said, "Setting targets is commendable, but would be meaningless unless it is followed up by bold action." He said, and I quote, "There is a real danger of complacency setting in, with politicians and political parties generally agreeing about tackling poverty. You get to the situation where almost everyone agrees. People come up from Westminster and say, 'It's amazing. The rhetoric is completely different up here. It's much more progressive.' But he then continued to say, 'We don't have actions that match up to that.' And that is exactly what we need, actions. It's not... Yeah.
Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr Rowley. I'm sure Mr Rowley will also agree, though, that it is precisely to respond to those comments and that we need actions to match our words, that this government has asked the Poverty and Inequality Commission to look in detail as part of its first piece of work on our child poverty delivery plan that comes from that Child Poverty Act. So I'm sure he, like we, look forward to what Mr Hamilton and his colleagues have to say to us when they return with that task, which this government has set them.
Mr Rowley.
I hope the Minister is not taking offence at the comments from Mr Hamilton. I think the point he makes is absolutely correct. You can have all the strategies in the world, but if you don't have the budgets in order to fund the local community action, then nothing happens. And that's the reality where we are. And that's exactly why we need action. It is not simply a case of words on a page, no matter how commendable those words are. Unless strategy is followed up with real and meaningful action, the problems we face as a society will not go away. For action to happen, we need resources that can be focused on the delivery of the strategy. and we need joined-up government at every level, all of which, I'm afraid, is not happening from the evidence that we can see today. Priority 1 in the Scottish Government report on tackling social isolation and loneliness states that we must empower communities to lead. It says we should do that by building cohesive communities and investing in resources. I could not agree more. However, the reality is that the resources are being stripped from local communities through sustained cuts to local services budgets, with cuts in turn being passed on to third sector and community organisations. So I'm afraid the rhetoric is not backed up by the practice. Priority 2 talks about tackling poverty, addressing inequality and to promote and improve health and well-being. Yet we see that poverty is growing, inequality widening, and our health and social care services are in crisis. And whilst I recognise the £500,000 investment in a social isolation and loneliness fund, it doesn't offset the millions upon millions of pounds being stripped out from local budgets right across Scotland. How does that sit with the ambition of promoting and improving health and well-being? What can be lonelier than being stuck in a hospital bed waiting on a social care package and not knowing whether that social care package will come or not? If we are to be serious about tackling these issues, we need to start to address the chronic level of cuts to our local services and local community and third sector organisations, as it is these frontline services that deliver the biggest impact on people's lives. Don't let it be said in the years to come the Scottish Parliament was brilliant at policy and strategy, but a complete failure when it came to delivering.